this year from the University of Siegen. He's the author of the book Natural Laws as Dispositions.
Recording in progress.
Okay, good. And he's also the founder of SPOT, the Society for the Philosophy of Time. And today is here to talk all about dynamicity, which is a nice short title, quite powerful, so we'll see how it goes. Thank you, Florian, for being here.
Thanks for having me. This is a rather new project of mine, and it's like one of the first talks I'm giving you this, so I'm open to suggestions. Actually, it started with the title. So a friend of mine, we were looking for a title for something else, and she suggested dynamicity, and I said, well, this sounds cool. I don't want to waste it for this other thing. This needs to be something bigger. But what is dynamicity? And she told me, you have to find out. And this I've been doing for the last 1.5 years. So let's see if I came up with something. Like this.
I think you have to click on this slide.
No? Sorry, what do I have to do? No. It's not. Okay. So, one of the most important distinctions in philosophy of time is the distinction between what is called A and B time or notions. This is something quite fundamental, which is in a lot of other debates and which comes up in the semantics, in the metaphysics, nearly everywhere. We have this differentiation between A and B. So very roughly, the idea is that A time has to do with the difference that is between past, present, and future. So it's all, in a way, semantically anchored to the present, because future means being future now. It cannot just be future. Whereas B time, this is like the time we use if we have calendars, or the thing which is normally used in physics maybe, has to do with the temporal relations of earlier and later. So T1 being earlier than T2 is independent of T1 or T2 being present, past or future. So in a way you could say it is eternal or atemporal, that it stands in its temporal direction. There are other people who think that A time has to do with experience of time or with the psychology of time. I'm not going to go into this now. I'm interested in metaphysics of time, metaphysics of the most fundamental sort. So, how could we capture A time and B time in the most fundamental way, in the purest way possible? And I think the differentiation into A time is time direction, whereas B time is time order or temporal order. Is the most fundamental way of doing it. Order needs a plurality of elements which are on a par. So something like spatial order, right? You could have like 2 points, T1, T2, and they stand in a relation, so you have the relata being in a way ontologically on a par. So what is time direction? So for me personally, it feels weird to say, but it might be different for you, that the present is later than the past. Sure, a past event can be earlier than a present event, but that the past, whatever that is, doesn't feel to be the right thing. It's not something so defined as a point in time. Right? Here you have 2 points in time, they can stand a relation. But how can the past be earlier than the present? Why does it feel odd? We will come back to this. So, there has been written a lot on what is order, if you look in mathematics. And something of this you will have to have a temporal order. It needs to be asymmetric, it needs to be maybe a total order, whatever, right? Okay. But let's look at direction. So what is the fundamental defining feature of A theory? Intuitively, it's easy. Even the present, without anything else, right, existing, is directed towards the future, towards what else? Sounds so easy. The debate about philosophy of time, where this project of mine, which I'm presenting to you, is located, is not symmetric. So one could think that we have B time on the one side and A time on the other side, and they try to reduce the respectively other notion to their notion, but it's not. Most A people agree that B notions are important. We need them to do physics, to do planning, to have like the history of the world, to have like a calendar that we could meet here. I needed a calendar, not only to know where I am now, I also needed to have like a date and dates, and it's always B time. So they try to reduce B notions to A notions. Whereas the majority, but I'm not sure about this, if it's really the majority, but it feels like the other project is to eliminate A notions. We can do with B notions on a metaphysical fundamental level, or even on the complete metaphysics. Metaphysics is B theoretically only. I worked in the first project reducing B notions to A notions. And now my new project is kind of going one step further. So I want to reduce A notions to dynamicity. And then there's this other project of reducing B notions to A notions, which I won't be talking about here today. I have written about this, a lot of other people have worked on this. But dynamicity is thus supposed to be the ultimate ground for A and B notions, directly for A notions, indirectly for B notions. Okay? Now once again, this sounds very easy, right? But it makes the task incredibly hard. Because if I want to give an account for A and B notions in terms of dynamicity, I can neither use A nor B notions. So the other projects are limited too. So if I want to give an account of B notions in A notions, in order not to be circulative, I'm not allowed to use B notions here. But here, I'm neither allowed to use B nor A notions. So this will be very hard, I guess. So what is the task? The constraints follow from what I just said. So I'm not allowed to use any temporal order. That would be a B notion. But I think we have to be careful here. I think any kind of order is out. And that rules out 90% of the theories on the market. So everything which has some kind of juxtaposed set of ontologically on the par entities, beat points, proto points. Just think about any logic. I mean, if you have heard about any accounts of in the philosophy of time, most of them take any elements and then formalize. So if you give a domain of elements, you're already out. So this would already count as order for me. So not only having like points, which then are called temporal, that would be Aurelia's presentism, but also more complex stuff like Correa Rosenkrantz are doing would count as order for me, and is that not possible for my project? Everything which is teleologic in any way is out, because that would be to give direction, that would be an A notion, to give you the direction via where it's aiming at, via its endpoint, either mentally or physically. So physical intentionality, like Molnar is out, and all mental stuff, maybe Thompson is also out. Now this is hard, so this is for the Hegelians here, who were thinking, wait, I know I can give an account of time. I just give an account of time in terms of contradictions. You start with a contradiction, you have A and not I. How do you make this work? Well, you put A and not I at different points in time. So for Hegel, the contradiction, if I'm not an expert, so correct me, but I'm just thinking this is a project, maybe pseudo-Hegel, right? So the contradiction first, the contradiction will give you time. It's not that I have the points in time, then I write not A and A here. You first start with the contradiction, and this is quite the driving force to give you time. But this would be a contentious account, and I want a purely formal account. So this is why it's going to be very abstract, and yeah, but Hegel is out. So the assignment is I want to give a metaphysical account. I'm not interested in the experience of time, and I want to give a formal account, as formal and as abstract as possible. Okay, let's see if I can. Okay, now comes the crucial bit. You can stop me now, or we can go back to this, because this is non-standard, to say the least.
Sir?
Yes?
Do you mean we can stop you now about the previous slides?
No, the previous slides are not. No, you can, of course.
That's something about the task. So, I mean, I see that I think I get what you want to do. I'm not sure I get why. Well, not in general, but like, why do you want constraints to be so strict?
Okay.
So, for instance, so when you say on the northern parts, you mean just not temporal order, but you can have other kinds of order, right?
No, out.
But why?
Every juxtaposition, everything that Bergson would call space-like time, any juxtaposition of elements, anything that is extension is out.
And why no content?
It's hard, right?
I know it's but why are you making it so hard? That's why.
I wanted to have the most difficult project imaginable for myself. And I wanted to list everybody off in one talk, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
No, really, this was actually the task. I was thinking if I could get through with this, it's fine. If I can't, I need to add up more stuff. There will be a point later where I'm not sure yet if I need to add this as an axiom or if it comes for free. We can talk about this. I'm literally not sure. My position keeps changing during the last week on this, so I don't know. Now it will become incomprehensible. I'm sorry. For me, at least. There is a differentiation between what one might call directedness and direction. So I can walk in the direction of north and end up, no, I don't know where the lake is, and end up in the lake, or I can walk directed at the lake. The difference is directedness presupposes the endpoint. So I can be directed towards something if somehow or other this thing is given, either as intention or in real life or both, best. Otherwise my internal maps don't add up. So directedness gives us, directedness, if you give the goal, you can get directedness. So it's the other way around, right? But directedness does not require a starting point. So a path, if I walk from A to B, would be the way I walk from A to B, and if I walk from A to B or from B to A, right? So walking from A to B is not the same as walking from B to A. I need to make some sign here. Okay. So what about directedness? I can walk to the lake from here, but I could also come from the other side. I'm pretty sure most of you did not come from, you didn't all walk in parallel to the university on the same path, you came from different, okay. So directedness is somehow independent of the actual direction you came from. So directedness does not need a starting point. Also, directedness doesn't care for the length. As long as you end up in university, everything is fine. Yes, it's not a success term. I can be working directed at university and then the tree falls down and I never make it there. This is all known. The imperfective paradox. Okay, but what about direction? We were looking about direction. This now you see why I don't want theology. This would be directedness. This is a theological not theological, I'm in the wrong faculty now. And to say this. What about direction? I think the easiest way to understand direction is the vector. The vector is direction plus length. Take the length away because we don't care for the length. So what stays of the vector if we just have direction? These two vectors have the same direction. What does it mean? You would say they're parallel or what? So this might be, I think it is, a huge problem for the atheist. If direction is the most fundamental concept of A theory, we should be able to give an account of direction that does not use any B notions. If I use the blackboard, I have a whole plane, I have a whole two-dimensional system. It's much too much. As an A theorist, you want to start with at most a point, maybe not even a point. I can't see any way of understanding direction without the negation of all the other directions. So the only way I could come up with to understand direction is as the negation of either the opposite direction or all the other negations. If it's continuous, I have all the others but this one. If it's discrete, I can just go through it. The easy case would be if I have the four dimensions, right? North, south, west. I have the four directions. Each of them is the negation of the other three. So directions, this is what I mean with no one direction. Of course, it's a joke because of the band. But what I mean is that directions come not, you can't have a single direction. In the easiest case imaginable, you have the line, and the line comes with two directions, and each direction only is but the negation of the other. Think about the line without the blackboard, right? What does the direction mean? Just not the other direction, and that's all there is to it. So directions don't come singular, and directions need extensions to be defined. You thought direction is a very easy word, you know what direction is. You thought the A theory can use this very easily, it's a much more demanding concept. So the A theory is in trouble. This is the first part of the talk, this is the destructive part. If this is true, and I have not been thinking about this for 1.5 weeks, so this is very new. If this is true, dynamicity is not optional, but you might need something else to ground the A theory. Before I thought everybody can do what they want, I do my extra step, nobody cares for my extra step, I don't mind, but for me it's important. Why I'm doing this, I don't know, I'm crazy. But now it gets serious. Now there's a challenge. So let me see if I can also have a constructive part. I once had the idea of inverting directedness. I was thinking of how to define movement in the most general way possible. And obviously, if you are at point A at time t1, and if you are at point B, and A is not B, then you have moved. Whereas stillness is also a temporal concept. And this means if you are at the same point. Movement is if you have a different point at adjoining times. Stillness is if you are at the same point. Easy. Huh? Just a basic concept. But no. It doesn't really it doesn't really matter if you're at B or at C or wherever. The only thing that matters is that you're not A. So, as soon as you are not there anymore, you have moved. This is the general way. Now this is the opposite of this. Right? You start at A, and it doesn't matter in which direction you go. You're not at university anymore. It doesn't matter if you go into the lake or into the pub. So does this help inverting direction? I guess it helps quite a bit. So think about how directedness. So think about how directedness was defined. I give you the point, and it unifies all the directions. Now, in its most easiest way, directedness can be understood as a dimensional feature. So you go at least one dimension up. You go away when you are not in the point. You can go to any other point in the line, or any other point in the plane, or any other point spatially, or how much up you want to go. So the idea is, I'm not giving a second point, but I give some some entity of another kind, an n+1 entity. This is one of the crazy stuff that is happening. So the way is one of my key concepts. Dynamicity is a way, is something which I will now talk about. It has two components. It has a way and the other thingy. A way does not presuppose direction either, because I'm not saying I have to go away in a certain direction. It doesn't matter. It's like backwards, right? You're going away. It doesn't matter where you're going. That way you're going must not even exist. So a way can be creative, and I think this is the creation aspect of time. So this is how time creates. Because, I talk about movement and people, but actually I'm talking about time and the dynamics of time. So these are proto-temporal concepts. But does a way need a starting point? Like towards. Towards needs the the end point. So does a way need the starting point? One could think a way needs the starting point, and then I go away from the starting point and I get the dimensionality. But I don't think so. I think if we have to really think about it, what is inverted towards, it will get the starting point out. So that point where I have been away is defined by me not being there anymore. And this notion of defining something is the second point of dynamicity. I call it settledness, but I'm not so sure with the words here. So, where do I go away from? I don't want it, of course, to be just imaginary. I don't want this account to be fictional or something. I want it to be about the real world, it's real time. So I want this to have empirical input. So think about it. I've chosen the term simplicity because it's not countable. I cannot say one or two simplicities. It's just you have something which is empirical but not identified as a countable individual. A point is something which has a way of, has a criterion of identification. It's an entity, it's a thing. A single point I call singularity, and if I have more than one I call it plurality. So I think what's happening when a way gets applied, or when time moves in the temporal case, is you have something, no, I cannot even say something, there is undefined, empirical, but not an individual, and then you go away, And by going away, this thing gets its criterion of identification, and let's call it T1. I don't care. I don't think a single thing is a point in time, and there cannot be a single point in time, but we will continue because time does not like change once and then it's over, it's continued changing. And then I do this a second time, so let's first do it discrete, and then I have identified two individuals, and they now stand in a temporal relation. So this is the suggestion. You start with simplicity, which is not identified, then you go to singularity, one point in time, and then all the other points come and you have a plurality. This can also be continuous. I don't mind. I think there is not the problem. But if you look at this, if this is at all sensible, it has a lot of implications. So it sounded like I'm talking some formal stuff, and but it has very, very tangible implications for the debate about philosophy of time. So to make it short, I think dynamicity is the combination of a way and a continuous settling, like describing, not content. Right? You may know this from the underdeterminants of theories, that this table obviously has empirical thingies, but giving it a color is half in the series and half in the table, right? And so this is what's happening. It has empirical input, but only by having some temporal distance to it, it gets like defined, settled. I use the word settling for other reasons because it has to do with indeterminacy, but anyway. So this is officially dynamicity, away plus settling. So the dynamic account of time gives us dimensionality in the idea of a way, so like a whole space. And you get singularity via settling. Now play this through. Why do I know when I start here, no I cannot have the point, when I start here and I go away, is this differentiated? Are these two versions of going away? No. You must abstract from the blackboard. If you only have away, you don't have the blackboard. You don't have like two versions to go away. So this is really hard to understand that you stay as abstract as possible if you do this two-step. Now you can ask, is this a straight line or not? If you ask this, you fall for the trap again, because there is no reference frame. Obviously, this is a straight line. This is there is no other line. Now there is one case, which is the thing I know, as I talked about, where I don't know. Why can't I go back? So we'll talk about this in a minute. This is one of the two implications, but I don't know if it's an axiom or a theorem. So iterating away in the discrete case, going away, away, away. Why can't I go backwards? Why can't I go, if I go away, now this point is settled. Why do I go in any other direction but T1? Yes?
Sorry, when does the earlier, later, well, however you want to call it now, at this stage, relation that you have in the...
Yeah.
Sorry, when does it come?
It's this. In a minute, I talk about it like literally after this. Literally after this is my second point. This is where I piss off the growing block people. Am I allowed to talk like this? Good. I'm not sure. First I thought this is the only axiom I need. I have to add that I don't go back. Now I think the way away is set up as defining, as not directedness. It cannot go back because this point now is settled. So it's not, so if I would go here, I would not go away, I would go towards. So by its definition, like its formal definition, away cannot be towards. If this makes sense, I get this for free. If not, I have to edit. I don't know. I'm really not sure about this. So, but if this is true, if singularity is not simplicity, if it's not that I have a starting point and then I go away from that point, but that this point only gets defined by me going away, by me not being there, this means now you have a formal understanding of what I said earlier, that the present is not later than the past, because you have temporal order only in the past. Yes? Because the present is not defined, it cannot stand in a relation. Only the past points. This is why I need the second iteration of away. So, the past is a temporal order, but it's an open interval. And this is exactly the opposite of what the growing block people say. They say the present is the last element in the series of temporal order. If you have ever wondered about the limit decision problem, so if there is a change from A to B, and you were wondering, is this A? Is this B? Is this A and B? Or is this A or B? I think Damiano and I have been on a conference on this.
Of course.
Yeah.
Organized by you.
No, not by me. No, this one was not by me.
That's good.
Anyway, most people would want to go for one of these solutions, the asymmetric solutions, that it only belongs to A or only belongs to B, because they are compatible with classical logic. This is contradiction, this is gappy. But if you want an asymmetric solution, you need a symmetry breaker. You need something that gives you why that rather than the other. It's like Bourdain's ass. That would be a purely formal metaphysical symmetry breaker for change. And this is one implication. I give a solution, I give a sketch of how a solution could be built to the problem of limit assignment in cases of change. I have a contential dispute with people I'm going to be seeing much too soon. So this is where the relation comes in. This is why it's only in the past. Okay, now the funny bit, so I can also make it continuous. I'm just going to say it's called away. I'm not going to say more about this. But you could imagine this being a continuous process. I would need to talk more about how I think how processes over time evolve and why they don't presuppose an existing coordinate system. But about this, there was work done. So this is not me, there's protophysics done on this. The early Carnap, he didn't think it was metaphysics, but there is formal stuff done on this. Russell also has written on this in his later, in his, how's it called, human, this is shit. No, okay, forget it. People have written on this. Okay. Thank you.